Hey everyone, Poindexter here, and we continue our playthrough of the solitaire wargame Western Front Ace. Lieutenant Daldier scored another victory during the last two patrols and went on his second solitary hunting mission. He gained another skill, situational awareness, after his third hair-raising balloon-busting mission. At his new base in Kwasi, Albert is ready to continue his rise through the ranks of France's ace pilots. So, let's get started. It is now November 1917, and since it is the beginning of a new month, we shuffle the combat cards. The Ypres offensive continues in the British sector, and a new offensive in Arras has begun. This is also taking part along the British line, so we won't be called upon to offer support in either offensive. We now determine the number of contact patrols we'll be flying this month. We roll a 3, but we add +1 to the total since Albert is an ace, so we'll be flying 4 contact patrols. Albert's first mission of November will be an offensive patrol, requiring us to fly to enemy territory and back, engaging in combat whenever possible. Albert and his wingman take off, and Albert looks around for enemy aircraft. And doesn't have long to wait as a group of German scouts is spotted nearby. The German scouts are Albatros D3s. We roll a 5 on the orientation chart, but with Albert's new situational awareness, we apply a -1 to that total, for a total of 4. In either case, Albert begins combat with the advantage. Albert fires at the Albatros and scores 5 potential hits. The German scout performs a tight turn, improving his position by 1. We apply the 5 hits. 2 hits have no effect, but 1 manages to strike the fuel tank, which is now leaking. The Albatros completes his turn and is now head-on. We determine final positions in the initiative check, and both pilots aggressively maneuver, but remain head-on with a 2-point difference. However, Albert's situational awareness skill adds +1 to his final initiative roll, so the 2-point difference is increased to 3, which is enough for 1 position shift, and Albert is once again advantaged over the Albatros. Albert fires again, and potentially destroys the Albatros. But the German performs an Emmelmann, improving 2 positions and avoiding all damage, and now has the advantage over the Spad. We check our final positions, and Albert maneuvers hard, bringing the Spad back to the head-on position. Albert decides to use reflexes to get the first shot in this round. He fires and lands 4 hits. 3 of the hits strike the struts and tail, but no critical damage is caused. The Albatros fires back and scores 4 hits, plus a possible hit to a crew member. Albert suffers a serious wound, and his engine is hit. With a serious wound and a damaged engine, we apply a -4 to the final position dice roll, but we remove 1 point for Albert's situational awareness, and the final modifier is -3. And the 2 fighters remain in the head-on position. Desperate, Albert decides to make a run for it and dive away. The Albatros will get a chance to fire, but we remove 1 hit because of the dive maneuver. The Albatros fires, but only scores 1 hit, and the starboard struts are struck again. Albert is ready for his emergency landing, but the Albatros gets 1 more attack, and this time we add a +1 to any hits scored. The German scout fires and would have destroyed Albert's Spad, but the 6th sense skill saves us again, and the result is converted to 2 hits instead, plus a 3rd hit due to the emergency landing attempt. 2 hits are scored on the port struts and the third to the fuel tank. Fortunately, the hit only causes a leak. Albert now attempts his emergency landing. First, we check the weather, and the weather is good. We add +1 due to the serious wound, and another +1 for the emergency landing, for a final +2 landing modifier. We roll a modified 9, and Albert manages to bring his sped down safely. Now we must check the seriousness of Albert's wound. And he's taken a bullet through the arm, which keeps him out of action for a month. At the end of November, Albert is eligible for another promotion. This one is not automatic and is successful on a die roll of 4 or less, but there are several modifications that can be made to the final total. We apply a -1 modifier for every award that has been given during the period, and another -1 if at least 10 aircraft have been destroyed. With all of Albert's awards, and the fact that he has destroyed 10 aircraft during the period, his promotion is automatic, and Albert is now a captain, which gives him another prestige point. Now fully recovered from the serious wound to his arm and his fatigue back to a normal level, Albert continues his career at the start of a new month, December 1917. First, we shuffle the combat cards. The Ypres offensive is concluded, but the Arras offensive continues. Now, we determine the number of contact patrols for this month. We roll a 3, but we add 1 to this total since Albert is an ace, so we'll be flying 4 contact patrols. Albert's first patrol of the month will be a defensive patrol, one of the safer patrols to fly since all action will be taking place in friendly territory. Albert and his wingman take off and check the sky for any German aircraft sightings. But no aircraft are spotted. Albert makes his way to friendly territory and begins his patrol. He looks around for enemy aircraft and fails to spot any. Albert continues patrolling the area, and we check for possible enemy encounters. And no encounter takes place. The patrol continues, and Albert looks around for enemy aircraft. But the skies remain clear of enemies. We continue patrolling the area and check again for an enemy encounter. But again, no aircraft are spotted. Albert burned one more endurance, and he tries again to spot enemy aircraft. And his persistence finally pays off as a flight of German two-seaters appears. The two-seaters are Hanover CL-3s. We apply a -1 to the orientation roll since Albert has the situational awareness skill. And the encounter begins head-on. Albert will use reflexes to fire first in this combat round, and will add an extended burst to his attack as well. Albert fires and lands 4 hits. The extended burst adds 2 more hits, and fortunately our guns don't jam in the process. We apply the 6 hits. 2 hits strike canvas, but the Hanover's forward guns and fuel tank are hit, along with the port struts. The fuel tank hit only causes a leak. With no option to fire his forward weapons, the Hanover goes defensive and performs a bad move, which gains Albert a position shift, and he now has the advantage. We now determine the final positions in the initiative check. And it's a poor outcome for the SPAD. Even with the +1 bonus to the initiative total, no position shift takes place, but Albert is still advantaged over the two-seater. Albert decides to attack once again and fires, and potentially destroys the Hanover. The two-seater attempts a side loop and gains a position, but there is no hit avoidance. The Hanover is shot down and crashes in friendly territory. Albert scores another victory, his 17th kill. With little fuel left, Albert makes his way back to the airfield. We check for one last enemy encounter, but no encounter takes place. Albert begins his landing, and we check the weather over the airfield. And the weather is good. Albert took no damage during his patrol, so it's an automatic safe landing. We document Albert's latest patrol success on the pilot log, and Albert's wingman also gains an experience point. And with that, we've reached the end of the video. Captain Daldier was bested in combat by a German Albatros, and only his sixth sense saved him from outright destruction, the second time to do so. The bullet through his arm kept him out of action for a month, but he came right back after recovering and shot down an enemy two-seater over friendly lines. He also received another promotion, an automatic advancement to captain, thanks to the many successes he's had over the past 6 months. If Captain Daldier can continue cheating death, then his future with the French Air Service will be a glorious one indeed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next patrol.